r/2x chromosomes. Cry your way to success says. Anybody else notice a lot of the so-called happy marriages are actually pretty bad? I've become such a pessimist about marriage. Realized long ago that the majority of the women I meet are not happy in their marriages, feel taken for granted, are exhausted by their husband's thoughtlessness, entitlement, emotional immaturity, etc. However, I recently realized that a lot of the women I know who swear up and down that their marriage is genuinely happy are actually in similarly crap relationships. It keeps happening. I'll meet an older woman, she'll ask me if I ever plan on getting married, then when I say no not really, and explain my reasoning, they assure me that while, yes, a lot of marriages are god awful, they are proof that you too can find a good man who treats you well, and live happily ever after together. Then, at some point later on, they accidentally reveal some detail in passing about their relationship dynamic that makes you wanna grimace. Like, husband expects her to do the vast majority of the child rearing and household MGMT despite both working full-time demanding jobs. Husband gets to spend his weekends actually relaxing and enjoying free time while she's shuttling a car full of screaming kids to a birthday party and then running errands the rest of the afternoon. So on and so forth. I realize, oh, they think this is normal, they just think this is how life is supposed to be, and that wanting more isn't even an option. She doesn't know better, and mistakes this for a good marriage. And sure, maybe she's genuinely okay with the unequal division of labor, maybe that does it for her, maybe that is her definition of happiness. Maybe. I feel like she's from an older generation where accepting crap treatment from your husband is normalized as a far more likely answer, though. Anybody else experience? Utter ridiculousness says. I'm 63 and divorced. The marriages I envy are the ones where the couples still actually like each other. These marriages are rare. Flaxenart says. That's the way I know I've got a good one. My husband and I genuinely like each other. A lot. He's a in delight of a person and I can't get enough of him. Risekele says. Same here. He's my best friend. Makes me laugh constantly. Your comment made me miss him, so now I'm going to call him and bother him at work. Lol. Thesmilling says. Just a question. Are you only asking older women this? Because as you say yourself, those are statistically people who got married younger, in a time where divorce was not as common as it is now. I wouldn't say it's marriage that defines a bad relationship, rather that relationships themselves can be shitty, marriage or not, and that at least a lot of younger women are learning not to settle. And yet, still, the sheer amount of he's otherwise perfect except for / massive red flag that I see on here says enough about how women are still settling. Then again, happiness is relative. If someone is happy with their situation, good for them. That doesn't give them the right to try and force you to follow in their footsteps, but neither should you feel better because you're making different decisions. So TDLR, it's not the marriage. It's the person you're married to. And as long as that person isn't actually a good person, yeah, marriage might not be a good idea. Trawail Mayo says. It's frustrating how normalized unequal relationships have become, even in so-called happy marriages. Valiant Distraction says. You say how normalized unequal relationships have become, as if relationships have ever been equal. Relationships now are more equal than they've been in hundreds, if not thousands of years of Western culture. There's still a long way to go. But the default is inequality. Sar Kashmir says. All my aunts, 5 of them, along with my mom, say the most fulfilling and romantic time of their marriages was before kids. They all advocate for waiting years after getting married to have kids, or foregoing it altogether. Bumblebaquia says. Unless I have massive change of heart in the next 5 years or so, I'm very certain I do not want kids. And honestly, A large part of that is I love my partner so much, and when he's my husband, I'm wholly uninterested in a hypothetical person complicating things. I want our married life to be full of adult love and freedom to enjoy ourselves. The thought of a child plowing into the picture and changing everything makes me feel resentful of a person who doesn't even exist, which makes me certain I have no business being a mom. r/2XChromosomes. Dramatic Dahlia says, I'm getting threatening texts from a man I went on a date with and am terrified. I called the police non-emergency line, gave them a description and they will do a drive-by tonight and tomorrow. I'm shaking and absolutely terrified. I met him in person and stupidly let him pick me up for a first date. I never do that, and I never will again. So he knows where I live. After sending a sorry I didn't feel a connection, but wish you the best kind of text, after what really seemed like a normal date, he will not stop texting me. I called the police after he suggested raping me. I'm too afraid to go to sleep tonight. AI Anna H says, genuinely not being an asshole here, but skip the kitchen knife. They are not designed to be weapons and you can easily slip and cut yourself, or any number of other things. Some kind of bludgeoning tool with a good handle and an easy swinging weight is a much better improvised self-defense option. Best place to go during a home invasion is the kitchen, but not for the knives. Frying pans, who knew? Might be a funny line and tangled, but it's funny cause it's true. Got a spray bottle? Vinegar in the eyes will slow someone down real damn quick. If you are going to barricade the door, don't just put something against, stack furniture all the way to the far wall, or wedge something into the corner by the door jamb if the door is right next to a corner and wall. Keep that phone handy and have an escape route planned. You've got this. Dramatic Dahlia says, thank you, I really appreciate it. Mediacrian says, do you have anyone you can stay with or stay with you? They need to do more than drive-bys if he's making a threats about raping you. You need to make a police report stat. Anticrepuscular Ray says, can you stay somewhere else? I'd set up cameras ASAP and make sure you have self-defense weapons handy, mace or firearm. Who David says, do you have anyone you could call to stay over with you? I understand you can't leave because of your mother, but if my girlfriend told me this story I would be there with my husband and any man I could get. I'm so sorry this is happening. I would be freaking out. Malcolmus says, I would suggest that you do not block his number, but do not reply to any message. If you block him then you won't know if he's becoming more unhinged or if he's given up and stopped trying to contact you. Valiant says, keep a recording of all the voicemails. Save the texts. That is unhinged by him. I would also get a security system on your house. Do not respond to him. What did the cops say after him threatening to rape you? Alclops says, what's the legality of sharing his number here so we can all send him our own threatening texts? R1 Poster says, get metal security bars for your doors and windows as the first step. Other than that, well, honestly, it's really easy to suggest get a bat or get a knife to someone preparing to defend themselves, but usually if an assailant is planning a home invasion with physical assault on another person as their goal, they likely have a firearm. You cannot win when bringing a knife or bat to a gunfight. I also wouldn't suggest the idea that anyone much physically shorter and lighter than their attacker would be capable of fighting off said much larger attacker with the force of their bat swing. If they would even let you get that close without opening fire to begin with. These sorts of suggestions are not coming from people that have ever been in these types of situations. I'm against firearms and the culture surrounding them in the US, but it's the best form of home defense specifically because firearms are so widespread that you're unlikely to encounter a violent home invader that isn't already wielding one. Assuming you are in the US, you can go purchase one from Walmart for cheap. If you can, Purchase a shotgun, then go to a local shooting range and ask for lessons in usage and safety. Unfortunately, this is the most capable form of self-defense, especially as a woman being stalked by an unhinged man. I'm sorry you're going through this, Op. r/2XChromosomes. Firm birthday 3069 says, herpes from Sab is my life over. I posted my story on before I convinced my mom in taking me to the gyno, and I told the gyno AO at my sap from my uncle. After several weeks, testing point swabs, poking, and creams, I had a blood test and am positive for herpes 1. The gyno is also telling me to go to therapy for SAP victims and my mom agrees. I don't know what to feel, I feel numb RN. I also wrote in my story how a church member also talked me down there as a child and I could have herpes from either of those men. At least I know now what's wrong with me, at least I'm glad that the gyno gave me pills and a cream. Frick my life. John Snavibrio says 80% of people have HSV1. Why the range? Because the number keeps going up over a lifetime of experience. You are in the majority. Your life is not over. Please focus on your mental health. I will briefly share my experience in the hope that it brings you some comfort. I was raped at 21. At the time I was told it would alter my life forever and that it would consume me. It doesn't. I rarely think about it. I feel no emotion about it now, and I have gone on to marry, have a high-flying career, and found general happiness. I know not everyone shares my experience, but I want you to know there is more to you and your life than this. Take the journey you need to take. Feel what you need to feel, but you deserve happiness. Blue Ruby Window says, this is not fair. I'm so sorry this all happened to you. I believe in your ability to figure out how to manage this and move forward and live an awesome life, and it sucks it isn't easier. It sucks. And you can do it. I'm glad you have a supportive mom and doctor. That's worth a lot. Best of luck to you. Glittering Park 6616 says, first off, I'm sorry you experienced that. As for life being over, 80% of the US population, where I live, has herpes. It's very common. Still, I would keep that information private, practice safe sex, continue your treatment, and when you meet someone who really cares about you and vice versa, be honest about it. Life is not over. Swilly 1005 says, most everyone has HSV1. Your life is very far from over. Be sure to get the support you need. I'm sorry you're going through this. Crusted Diamond says, firstly, I'm sorry for what has happened to you. It will take time to both process what has happened, as well as come to terms with this new information. Take it day by day, and know that there are waves of emotions that will fluctuate until you come to terms with it all. As others have stated though, HSV1 is incredibly common. Grandmothers can give it to their grandchildren by kissing them as babies. Additionally, while not curable, antivirals do exist that help manage breakouts when they occur and shorten the outbreak period. Additionally, while I'm not a doctor or medical professional, I also believe that as life goes on, herpes outbreaks get less severe as your body gets far more used to detecting and clearing the virus. Your life is not over. I do know several people throughout my life that have been diagnosed with herpes. Most, if not all of them, have gone on to find loving partners and lead quality lives. Do prioritize yourself and your health. Don't put off seeking mental health services to discuss your trauma or diagnosis either. While easier said, don't hyper-focus on your diagnosis. Keep your head up, Opus. Disastrous Kick 9189 says, sorry this happened to you. Just to reiterate, almost everybody you know probably has HSV1. It's nothing life-changing. You will get through this. R6 says, Attaching shame to herpes is something that happened with a great marketing campaign in the late 60s through early 80s. Writing articles about STDs made more magazines sell in the 70s. By the time the first treatment was approved in 1981, they had laid the groundwork to start a shame campaign against people with this disease, which one is not recommended for regular testing by the BCDC, 2 is often undetected because people don't even know they have it. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.